In this video, we're going to take a look at the developments that took place in Season 7, Episode 10 of The Curse of Oak Island. But before we do, I'd like to remind you that my book, The Oak Island Encyclopedia, is still available for purchase on Amazon. If you'd like to get a copy of this book, please check out the link in the description. Season 7, Episode 10 of The Curse of Oak Island begins at the bump-out area of the Smith's Cove cofferdam, where the boys discovered the wharf-like structure the previous episode. Although archaeologist Laird Niven gives the treasure hunters the green light to excavate the structure by hand, Gary Drayton decides to scan it and its vicinity first with his metal detector. In doing so, he comes across a tag-like strip of metal, which he suspects might be silver or pewter, perforated by a single hole. The crew sends the artifact to Dr. Krista Brousseau of Halifax's St. Mary's University for analysis. Dr. Brousseau informs the crew that the object is not composed of silver or pewter, as Gary Drayton initially suspected, but rather of impure lead, alloyed with small amounts of tin and antimony. She further states that tin and antimony are commonly found in ancient lead objects, and suggests that the trace metals might have been added intentionally in order to improve the object's durability. Dr. Brousseau then advises the team that, if they want to learn more about the artifact, they ought to subject it to a laser ablation test, which will determine its isotopic signature. The boys take Dr. Brousseau's advice and task Dr. Chris McFarlane, the geochemistry professor who conducted the laser ablation test on a lead cross back in the Season 6 premiere, with conducting a similar test on the lead tag from Smith's Cove. McFarlane presents the results of this test in a war room meeting near the end of the episode, informing the crew that the lead of which the artifact is comprised was likely mined somewhere in the Mediterranean regions of Spain, France, or Italy. The professor also states that the tag contains a higher concentration of tin than any other lead artifact he has analyzed. Near the beginning of the episode, we learn that the treasure hunters have obtained permits from the provincial government to excavate certain areas of interest within the Oak Island swamp. We also learn that the boys intend to carry out these excavations through the use of a swamp excavator, a specialized piece of heavy equipment specifically designed for use in swamp-like environments, which they have rented from John Skierka of Great Excavations Inc. This development implies that the boys have disposed of the services of contractor Sean Wilson, whom they invited to excavate the swamp's areas of interest through the use of a trench cage or dig box back in Season 7, Episode 3. The treasure hunters drain the swamp throughout the episode. When the swamp is finally dry, Marty Lagina and Billy Gerhardt pilot the swamp excavator and proceed to dig up the paved wharf, a pattern of stones which diver Tony Sampson discovered on the swamp floor back in the Season 7 premiere. In the middle of the episode, the Choice Drilling crew sinks an exploratory borehole called FG-13 in the Money Pit area in the hope of locating another piece of the Shaft 2 tunnel. Sure enough, while examining a core sample taken from a depth of 98.5 to 108.5 feet, the treasure hunters find a large piece of hand-sawn lumber, which they hope constitutes the coveted second piece of the tunnel in question. Geologist Terry Matheson also points out layers of sand and clay within the core sample, which he says would make a perfect conduit for water from the Smith's Cove flood tunnel to the Shaft 2 tunnel. The narrator then reminds us of the sand the crew discovered in a 99 to 109 foot core sample taken from a hole drilled in the Cave-in Pit area back in Season 7, Episode 5, and of the theory introduced in that episode that the sand might constitute the remains of the Smith's Cove flood tunnel. The treasure hunters are soon joined by Rick, Marty, and Alex Lagina, who congratulate them on their success in determining the orientation of the Shaft 2 tunnel. In a later interview, Marty remarks upon the layer of sand that Terry Matheson identified in the FG-13 core sample and explains that the geologist believes the sand to be naturally occurring material, which facilitated the flooding of the Shaft 2 tunnel back in 1805. Marty also expresses his own opinion that the sand may have been placed intentionally by the creators of the Smith's Cove flood tunnel as, quote, "sand will transmit a lot of water," unquote. Back at the Money Pit site, the treasure hunters agree to sink one more hole in order to further confirm that they have indeed determined the location and orientation of the Shaft 2 tunnel. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and would like to help support this channel, please check out my book, The Oak Island Encyclopedia, which you can find by clicking the link in the description.